Hey guys, what is going on? So today we're going to be doing a bit of pattern separation, just kind of recapping over the trade that I took on the US 30. So I took this trade over here. It's a bit of an aggressive entry, of course, coming into the retest. And then we had the entry over there, which I took on the 5. And essentially I took the entry just here and aggressively got out here. The reason I got out was because I'm anticipating a continuation pattern here. So I am just waiting to see if we get something developed like that, and then price comes in here, comes back down, or maybe doesn't even come all the way to the low. It could even just come to that point there, and then I'll be able to just really look for a refined re-entry in these areas. In terms of stop protection, I probably would go with a little bit extra at that point, so bearing that in mind, that would be basically the gameplay for the next move to go. I walked away with roughly around about 3.6, 3.7% in that region, and now I'm just hovering under 5% total profit on the account. So going off that, we are going to be jumping straight into some pattern separation today. Hey guys, what's up? So today we're going to be doing some pattern separation. This was actually done in 2020, I think I did this pattern separation, 2021, so it's quite a long time ago, 3 years ago. I collected this data, so this is really out of date. But essentially, when you're pattern separating, you want to kind of just spend your time doing something like this. This is essentially what I did when I first started pattern separation. Is just I kind of went through data and then just really started to understand what was happening. Now skills evolved. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to continue from where I left off, but I'm actually going to just mark on a little note that I've evolved, and we're going to go over that. Obviously I'll probably come back at some point and do all of this again, but let's go 10:06:24. Alright, so we're going to do pattern separation from here, so I'm going to remove that little bit there. Oops, that little pressing loads of buttons. This little piece of price here. Okay, so what we can see over here is, in terms of pattern separation, we can see that we squeezed, right? And then from that squeeze, we ended up pulling back up, tapping into this, and then this just became a part of, you know, something of its own. It's a very difficult one to decipher, to be honest. That was a squeeze in there, but you would have found it very difficult to trade this because of the lack of the bottoms as well. So if you were taking it as a 2-touch, then that would make sense. It just would come with a bit of a risk to it, but more than likely you could have probably refined in there and found an entry. This is the daily right now, so as you can imagine, we're just marking on the daily structures, and then we're going to reanalyze during this period. So we're only going to go up to around about this point, and then we're going to really analyze it because there'll be a lot of data in there that we can gather and learn from. So in terms of pattern separation, we had this, and then we came back up, and then this became something larger. Was it really like that? Possibly, but it's not really the type of structure I'll draw on. I'll just say that we broke up, and then we came in and retested it, and we created a range. Yeah, it's one of those ones. And then we came in and got a more deliberate price. So perhaps maybe from around about here, coincidentally, and then from there. Right, it's very subjective on the first touch there for sure. Even so, we're gonna just use that piece of price, and then we're gonna draw on this little structure here. And this is all you're really doing, and the main thing for doing this is just you're building your lens. You're building the way you see your charts, the way you recognize patterns, but sometimes it's not always the best if you're just analyzing every pattern. You want to isolate it. You want to isolate it and just recognize patterns that you're looking for first. So separate them into, you know, I'm looking into my particular flags, and then I'm going into something a little bit different, and then from there. So we're gonna just stop at this point here. This was quite subjective, and then we're gonna go over that. So I'm gonna replay the charts to this period, and we're gonna go to the 4 hour, and the 4 hour, and we're going to have a look at those little bits. Now I don't think I'll be able to go to anything lower than the 1, only because of where data is, but you know, we can already see that there's a lot of potential in there. So we're not worrying too much about entries. We're going to see more patterns in here anyway, which is great. Then we're going to decipher them. Now, not every pattern is a continuation, but every continuation is a consolidation. So we need to understand this clearly, that this was just a squeeze. And within that squeeze, there was some opportunity as well. You could even argue that there was a middle section to it as well. And then we came in and pushed down. At that point there was trades in here because I can see them, but they're still a little bit higher risk because they don't have the clear context that we're looking for. But even so, I'm going to neglect this pattern here because right now I want to use this data. So what we had is we had a push up, we left a significant area, and then we came in and retested it, but we came in correctively, creating a 2-touch. Now there wasn't a clear bottom to this, and I'm not really a huge fan of just doing that, but at the moment that is the lows that we have for this pattern. And then how did we get there? Well, we actually correctively came back up, and then we squeezed within here, as you can see, and then eventually we squeezed into that high and then rejected. From the rejection, there probably was multiple entries, which I can already see one which is 10 out of 10 for me. Not just that one, but this one is pretty decent, the one just below it. I'll mark that on, and then essentially I would have been looking to play that and then probably taking out a small profit or even a break even on this if I was being a bit too aggressive. Most likely I was, because of how it's pushing away. But we can then see that overall this then was the structure. This was the retest back into the area where entries were, and then we sold off. I had a bit of a consolidation there. There's another little consolidation in here which I think we'll be able to refine on the 1, because this is the 4 hour at the end of the day. So I'm just going to mark these on. There's another great continuation which happened next. So you can see with the patience involved and knowing what you're looking for and where you're taking the run into, and clearly we're taking the run into this as the first target. The nice thing about this is we can see that there's a clear run there. So if you're playing from A to B, there's 1 entry, 2 entries, and 3 entries into that low, right? And maybe we'll size it up on the 1 hour. Let's just have a little look if we missed anything, and nope, it's pretty good. So we'll come back now on the 1, and let's zoom back and check that out. Let's have a little look. Here we go. So then we can see on the 1 hour, really and truly, we would have really been positioning ourselves from this point forward. We can then see that this was a little bit of a difficult situation because it was a bit of subjectivity, but when we had that was the first clue. And then what happened was we came in and we retested off the back end of that. And we came in here, so there was an entry just there. And I would have put it in here. Stop loss would have been probably around about 20, 21, 22 to be safe, but 20. That ran for about 3%, so I would have probably not want to choke this, but maybe around about 1.5% would have been sufficient. 1%, 1.5%, and then I would have been taken out just there. Then moving forward from that, we did come back up to this area, but we didn't really get anything, and then we pushed away. When we cleared this low, we then cleared it over here for continuation. Over here it is a little bit of a squeeze, I'll be honest with you, when you look at it, and the structure isn't as clean as it could be, but more so I would have been looking at it like that. And then as we retraced and came back in, that's when I could have probably set an order just about here, a little bit more aggressive in my opinion, for sure. But you'd be playing the momentum of this moving, and then you'd have probably, you could go with about 35 if you wanted to be extra safe. If you wanted to be aggressive, you could go with about 20-ish, and then you would have run around about 3.5% there it did pull back for around about 0.8. So you'd be playing this larger move to this ray line anyway, so you'd have to really know that's not the best structure in the world. What we've taken 3.5%, probably go aggressive with 2.6, 2.5, call it around about this area here, just above, yeah, about 2.5, 2.4, and you would have been taken out just there, because you'd be banking that this would be a consolidation here and then it just continues, but it did pull back and then come up and create something else. Over here, this probably would have been refined a little bit on the 15. I'll be honest with you, we don't have enough data and I don't think I can go anything lower, but the nice thing about this is we came up into it correctively as well at the end, and then we tapped in. So really and truly there probably was some sort of entry in here, and with that you'd have that around about here with your protection above, once again around about 20 at the aggressive side, and then you'd be running around about 3 again, so you might walk away with 2.5, probably 1.5 to be fair on this one, and you'd be taken out there. So overall you've got about 1.5, 2.5, and then 3.5, so 4, that's 3 plus 5, yeah, 5.5% there. We continued pushing, came in correctively, and then I think when we had this massive drop off, we then could see that we had this potential for something that we would have looked at, and then yeah, it didn't really give us that touch up there. You could have argued that there was a trade in here, but I'll be honest with you, it wasn't the easiest to decipher, and I probably would stay out of that, to be honest. So yeah, it's one of those ones where if you're going steep on this, you know, it's difficult to say, because we just don't know that this is going to be the area to commit. But then when you pattern separate this, you can kind of see that there is the element of an expanding in there to then continue to the downside. So that is also a interesting play, but overall that's just very messy and very aggressive, and I just wouldn't want to touch that personally. The next one I'll be looking at is probably this one right here. Yeah, probably looking at that whole section as its own. Again, not easiest one to decipher, and I probably would have stayed out of that position, but we can see that, you know, we pushed down from there, we had a clear failed correction there, continuation, push down, another failed continuation. It did kind of have the elements to it as well, but it just wasn't the one, and then we descended back into that low and we rejected. Then as we kind of push back up, we now can say, okay, we can trade into this level, right? And we understand that that's retesting, that line up there is retesting the back end of this, right? But more so we don't need to worry about that too much right now. We're then looking at this as, okay, is this developing into something larger? And it did in the end, but more so we had our lows down there, and then internally we had something like this formulating, but it wouldn't, yeah, that would have been the better angle. And then we had a middle section in here. Once again, not the cleanest because we had to cut through it a bit, but there's a continuation pattern right there. And this would be definitely an interesting play here, because you'd basically be taking this trade into that ray line and then managing it aggressively. So I think from a 1 hour perspective, you could have seen it retrace up there, pulls back in around about 50%. You take that, or you could even go around about 17, sounds about good to be fair. And then as you reach this area, you'd be around about 3.25, you'd be more aggressive. So as you run about 4, you'd be having about 3. Yeah, I'll be out somewhere around about here, just super aggressive on it. And then I would have been out of the position just there. Then we couldn't really say that this was ready to go short, because we would have been looking at something like that. And we would have seen that piece of price. I'm just going to remove this ray line and these. We would have seen this as a continuation to the upside, but we didn't get the entry, so we would have probably stayed out of that. Then in the end, as we failed to commit, we went from a larger correction into another larger correction, which is a great signal that we are not going to be in progressive price action really. So we then actually ended up having this, which then ended up becoming the middle section for all of that, and we impulsed back to the upside, completed on the 1 2 3, 1 2 3, and then we rejected, and there could have potentially been entries. I'm almost certain there was in here on the lower time frames, and then the trade would have gone. So with that particular trade, you would have possibly got into something around about these areas here. Protection, call it above 15, it's even fine. And yeah, that could have easily been a position which kind of took you down to 8-ish%. Around about 8.6, yeah, you'd be out around about 7.5 as a minimum. Probably 8% to be honest. I'd be super aggressive because we're so close to that low, there's no point waiting for it. And then we pulled back. Couldn't play the trade off the middle section only because, to be honest, it didn't really go from anywhere significant as well. It was a middle section, but we could understand that it would be ready to go when it did go. Then we had this bit of price here, again not the cleanest. We probably would found it difficult to decipher that, but we would have probably just had this on and then seen it reject, and potentially there was an entry in there. Can't really tell at this point, but in this area here, or maybe in these areas, there could have been an entry to go short. And then as we came to the low of that overall structure, we then came in corrective. So then we understood that this could possibly pull back up, but more than likely it would probably continue because of the higher time frame sequencing. We are in the way down. I went to the 15, but I think it's giving me the 15. Oh, sick. All right, so we can go back and we can see this on the 15, I think. Maybe not. Yeah, okay. Anyway, it's always a bit confusing because it's always zooming out and then trying to have to find where I was on the charts. Alright, cool, so we're over here. This is decent, this is very decent. So then we pushed away, couldn't do much, but then there was a brilliant trade. So we've cleared this low now, and then we get this continuation here. I can see why a lot of people would have missed this because they would have been looking at those areas, but when you really look at it, it's done enough. It's pushed, it's given a continuation there, it's pushed again, given another one, and then you'd basically be playing this. You could even go reduce risk if you wanted to at that point. I think it would be huge on stops though. Yeah, 35, and you'd be, I mean, it's not so bad. It's just this could develop into something else, and then all of a sudden, you know, you're in a trade where you've done that and then this develops. So you'd have to be more in your management with something like this. But yeah, even so, we basically had this, and even if you wanted to take it, you could have gone in here. Protection, you could have gone above here. I think it would have been more than enough to really play that. And then you would have really been playing that to the downside. Over here we had a scoop. We tapped into this little hook point here, and then we dropped off and there was just an entry right there. Clear as day. Pushed away, came to the downside, gave another continuation, pushed away, had this, failed to go for the third, but understanding sequencing, 2 was enough. And then we just pushed up to the upside, came back in and retested this, which is nice. Did we actually fill all of it? Yeah, we did. Okay, so we came in, we tapped into that, and then we dropped off, came back up, got corrective. This is one massive piece of its own, but within here there was probably an abundance of structures just to take. So if you just analyze that, you've got this bit of a mess there, then you've separated that, I wouldn't have taken any trades in here, to be honest. I mean, it's just not my area of edge, but makes sense. You played it into that low. This then became a small correction, pushed up, and then we retested this area here. Came back down, it was corrective again. Came back up, tapped in. Yeah, I'll zoom out quickly, check the 4. Yeah, this is a huge correction that we're in here. So this is something that market conditions changed. We went from this impulsive market condition to corrective, and then we would actually have to understand that from how price is moving. Something similar to what we're seeing right now. But I'll go back to the 1 hour quickly and now get back into this corrective area that we were just analyzing. So we can see in here that correction, push down, it's just channeling in here, but we don't know it's channel at this point. We just know that we're looking for trades. That happens. This squeezes more so like that. Potentially you'd take a long there. Subjective. Not a lot of these trades even committed, I'll be honest with you. And yeah, that was just, I mean, the interesting thing about this trade here that I've just marked on is that we've tapped into this right there, and we've come into it with this squeeze. So there was potentially a good trade in here, only because of that. It's basically, we don't know what type of range that is. We don't know it's squeezing like that. We just know that this has come in with essentially a 1, 2, 3, come in, filled that, and we're looking for the sell. So at that point there, we're really good for shorts. You could have even risked entry this area, but most probably if you wanted to take it, you'd go probably around about here, risk above, and you'd basically play that for the low to go all the way down, but in the end we didn't get it. I don't know if there was an entry there, but definitely in here there was probably something we could have played, right? Something to just get granular with. And over here, this level for an expanding, which failed, and then it became part of this massive corrective squeeze again. Corrective. Yeah, it's just one of those ones where you'd be in this corrective squeeze and you'd just be taking a lot of break evens, to be honest. A few profits. Majority, if you try to take trades within here, you could have been in and out, break evens, small 1% and whatnot. But like I said, this is not where your edge is. But you want to learn to trade during these conditions, or know how to trade during those conditions, but more importantly, recognize when you're in these market conditions. Being able to recognize that you're in this market condition early on, I think, is something which is a massive skill in itself, where a lot of people, they lose quite a lot of percentage before they recognize it, and when they do realize, that's when they need to take a step back. So we've had a solid push up, we got this little continuation here which did end up playing out, but then we got very corrective, squeezed, however so, and then just failed. Didn't even quite tap into that area there that we have marked on the 4. So let's have a little look at that quickly. So you guys can already see that how I'm breaking this down, right? I'm just looking at it. There is some trades in there as well that I haven't really taken, but there are still valid trades. It's just these are the ones that I already know 100% I would have probably looked for taken as well. This period here, I probably might have even taken a few losses, really and truly, just because I would have only established it was a really difficult sequence. But then the interesting thing is, removing all of this for a minute, you'd understand that, okay, we've got a high here, we've moved correctively, let's wait till we get back there. And then when we did get back there, there was an entry and we were able to move. So that's just something to bear in mind, that you just have to be patient, set an alert, and then just wait for what you need to wait for. Interesting. Okay, so it wasn't a matter of retesting that, it was a matter of coming back up to this little correction, and then we rejected, and then we created a continuation right here. And then we squeezed, didn't really give us the best of price action on the way down, and we pushed away. Now maybe if I analyze that on the one there's something, then the interesting thing is we came in, we tested this low again, we broke through it, failed, and continued, pushed back up aggressively, and then we went. So this is something that we're kind of seeing similar price action on Euro USD now. So we're gonna have to wait and analyze that more. And then we came back up aggressively, and then tapped into these areas, pushed away correctively, came back in, and then pushed away again, and then we got entries in there as well. So we'll basically be looking at this section here for entries. Over here we had something a little bit more larger, to be honest. Not the best of trades, because there wasn't the cleanest of entries there, but there could be something just at the end over here. So we'll have to analyze that little bit of price there. And then we pushed away and we went. I'm just looking at this little price here as well, because obviously we're looking at that M star. So I'm gonna replay the chart back here because I don't like zooming in too far and back and forth. Let's see. Let's analyze that. So we tapped into that area, we pushed up, there's a small continuation there, no clean entry just yet, pushed M starred again, see the little scoop, and we pushed away, broke that low, would have been looking for continuation, didn't get anything significant in this area, but you'd see it as, yeah, I would have looked for something like that. Didn't get a trade there. Perhaps maybe there was a trade in here. Can't analyze it because I need to go lower. And then over here, yeah, this was just a bit of a squeeze. Very, very, very hard market condition to trade in my opinion, because that's not clean in any way. Like if we pushed up and we came in like this, you know, then for a short we would understand that, but we didn't do that at all. We just pushed. Yeah, the entry wasn't really the one. Aggressive, came to the downside, then we had this and it failed. This was a failed continuation just there, and then we pushed higher, and then we had this steep flag which coincidentally retested that, which is really nice. And then we pushed up. Wow, that's a pretty decent move. I'm almost certain we're looking at the same. Yeah, pretty much. Wow, love that. And then correctively pushed down, so you can see that this was the correction, and then it pushed back up, tapped into here. You could have technically, if you really were, you know, anticipating this and you wanted to take the trade, I'd say that this is not a bad trade at all. Yeah, I wouldn't say that's a bad trade. 55 pips though. Yeah, 55 pips. Yeah, arguably I thought there would have been a cleaner trade in here, but you've got this, perhaps maybe there was something like that. I can't tell because I can't zoom in, but we've cleared that low. We're in this area. Might be creating continuation to go short. Push down. There was a little V shape in there, and we pushed. Continuation went. Then we have this. Oops, what was that? This. Once again, wasn't the one for me. Just looking at price. This was a correction down again. So we failed. We came in corrective again. This then had the potential to become something larger. That would have been pretty decent. This kind of failed as well to tap into the high, but it did do more than enough. And then it dropped off. And then we had this section here. Again, it did something similar to what we saw here. Didn't tap into the absolute high, just tapped into something just below. Didn't tap into the absolute high, tapped into something just below, and then went. And then I'll remove that. I reckon if you looked at it on the line chart, you probably would have seen it cleaner. But over here, it just wasn't there. And then we move lower. We move lower to this section here. Maybe there was a trade in here on the lower time frame, and then this became steep. Yeah, not the best trade. A bit steep, but we'll carry on playing that through. If we tap into that high, maybe. Now we're breaking the low. Okay, we're good. So this is an interesting section. Now it's turned into backtesting. Let's have a little look at this. So we are now breaking that low to the left. Right, we're clearing all of this. We're looking for continuation in this area. So we'd basically be looking for something larger to shape up here. Let's have a little look if anything does shape up. Nope, it just drops. There wasn't any clean entries from an hourly perspective that I can see. I'm gonna leave that and let that play a bit. Yeah, so you had this little section here as well. But depends how aggressive you were, because even though that makes sense, it's a bit difficult to decipher. We're not looking left at the moment as well. Yep. Then you could have potentially been looking at this, but that's not really your lows. Yeah, it's not. It's a bit of a squeeze. Like you could argue that there was a trade right there because you're playing it, just playing off the volume of that. Set your about 50, and then you'd play that. Yeah, not really the one because of the angle. I think this happens to be the first touch anyway, and then we let that play. As we move higher, we've not filled anything there, but we've technically retested the back end of this. So in a sense, it's done what it needs to, but has it left a footprint? That's the question. So now we just want to see price play. If we get continuation to the, oh, there we go. So that's interesting, because what you'd basically be seeing here is that we've retested the back end of that. We've now pushed away. All right, M starred as well, pushed away, and then from there we're getting an entry. So let's see what the next candle is. Oh, it is bearish. If we can get an entry in there, yeah, you would have probably looked to take this a bit more aggressive. Wow, that's 70 pips. You know, you'd refine that. You'd probably get an entry in now, I'll be honest with you, but 70 pips on this, and then you're in on that. Yeah, probably take a break even if you were in for 70 pips. But if you could have got that refined entry in here, 35, probably getting a bit better than that, but you get in, call it around about 25. Yeah, you probably would have walked away with, oops, I pressed something, 30, yeah, around about 3% on that. Even so, you could have held through this. I think it's reckless too, but it is what it is. And then what happens is it moves. I think that's it. That's your mess, right? So this is now developing into something larger. Can we retest that and get an entry is the next question. So we're going to look at this. Okay, great. So technically we are in selling territory if we can get something significant. Come on. We're getting there. We're getting, oh, that's nice. All right. It's possibly going to make its way back up here, but if we do get a strong push back in and an insurance entry, we're good. Okay, perfect. This is even better, to be honest. So we failed to actually do that, but now we can see if we get a rejection from here. You did actually get a rejection from there. Now 15-minute would have been useful. You'd probably, if you're taking this on the 1 hour, you could probably do that. It's a bit more risky in my opinion. I think that's a bit risky because you'd want to wait for an insurance entry at this point. But yeah, an insurance entry. Let's see if we, yeah, there's an entry in there for sure. I know that. If the next candle's bearish, you'd be good for the short. No. See, okay. See, now this is perfect because that's wick through taking everyone out. This is probably your entry in there. You probably can go in around about 18 and you're good. And then, yeah, you're probably in there for 4-ish%. So I would have probably been a bit more aggressive at 3. I would have been out that trade at 3, and then we'd let that play. To be honest, you could hold this at break even. More than likely, I'm pretty sure this is going to drop off, but I wouldn't want to just hold that just for any worst case scenario reasons. And I couldn't see any continuation shaping up just there. Here we could be getting something. Again, are we doing that same situation where we reject? No, not yet. There's no trade just there. Now, this is getting a bit more interesting. I'm just waiting for price to... Okay, cool. So, if you actually just look at this for what it is, alright, I didn't pattern separate this as well as I could have, but there was a descending here. There was basically this, which failed, right? And then we came in, we tapped, we sold, we had the entry in there. And then this just descended, but now it's turned into a larger piece of its own where we're basically going to be analyzing that to see if we get an entry. Insurance, if we can get it. Oh wait, if this goes up, no, it's okay. Yeah, I don't think it's, if it does come here, we could be good for that risk entry at the top, but there's possibly this going on here as well. Not my typical trade though. There we go, that's perfect. That's exactly what we want to see. And then do we come back into that area? Because obviously now this high has become this high. We're then where that correction was. Ooh, that's nice. Okay, perfect. Now we just need to wait. Oh, great. Okay, this could plummet. This could really plummet, but we need to see if we can get an insurance entry. So on the 1 hour, we could probably see it consolidate just a little bit. Probably in there, I'll be honest with you, was your possible refined entry in there, and then we'll probably see this drop off a little bit more now. Oh, are we getting the entry? Oh, this is even better. I mean, okay, you would have taken a break even most probably or small profit, but really and truly, we're squeezing. We just need to wait for a strong push back in now. There we go. That's exactly what we want to see. So we probably had an entry in there, but we didn't really know where we were. Now we're in here. We just have to wait for an entry on the 1. Okay, I clicked too much. Let's have a little look. So what we're seeing over here is we're going in here, going in here. Yeah, it's a bit messy from a 1 hour perspective, but there was a trade in there for the short. Okay, this is nice because what's happened is we've cleared this low and now we're creating continuation on it. So really and truly we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, you could probably take that there and this here, but we're gonna wait that one through and see what happens. I'm gonna see if I can get the risk entry on this. Yeah, probably get a risk entry in a second. Just there. If you didn't get it, trade's still valid now. You could probably just take it like that, but the trade would have been in there for sure. And then yeah, you'd be in this trade. Probably with it hovering around, you have to be patient, just playing with your emotions at this point. And then there was actually probably another trade right there where we went through it, but disregard that. Now you're running about 1.5%. You can hold about break even if you want. And we're approaching that low, so you want to start getting a little bit more aggressive. So you've got around about 2.8%. You want to lock in around about 2%. Let that go a little bit more. Come on, I want to see it break the low. Yep, just about survived that. Broke the low. Now we're running around about, yeah, I'll probably just be aggressive at 4 and just see what happens. Okay. Now we're running around about 5-ish, yeah, about 4.5 locked in. Coming into those lows. Wouldn't be surprised if we start pulling back. Okay, we've got these down here. So what we're running at here, we're running around about 6. Yeah, I'll get a 5 locked in. Yep, so I walked away with 5% on that. It was okay. I mean, there was actually another trade in here, which I'll just quickly remove that. That was 5. But there was this little bit of a squeeze there, which you could have deciphered and actually taken a trade on as well. And there was this trade here. So opportunity was there in abundance. It's just that one would have been more difficult because you would be so close to that low. This one would have been a little bit more difficult as well, I suppose, because you'd have to really make sense of it. But you can see it clear as day on the line. And that'll be it really. So that was pretty it. To be honest, it's one of those ones where now you'd be waiting for a larger correction anyway. Oh, there you go. This is basically it. I'll give it a little bit more to just move. And come on, let's see if it can come back up. Yep, there we go. So we're now in the right area. Just have to give it a little bit more. And I feel like it's just going to go now. Yeah. It's one of those ones, but the context was there. And then you would be basically taking that into the next low, which is just here. So play that. Oh, mini double bottom, near miss, just went. We've seen that as well recently. There we go, we filled it. And now this is where we want to be proper patient, because we could M start at the bottom here. Is basically what we want to see. We want to see price tap into this low again. And give it some time. It did play this though. Maybe there was an entry in there as well, but there you go, there was trade there. This is just corrective, but now we're trading below this. We can either see continuation to the downside or a reverse to the upside. And yeah, it was messy, but we're still not ready. We can still go give us more there you go, continuation. It's just one of those ones. You can see that tight continuations across the board were very probable in a run of momentum. This is no point looking for something too large. 2 touches seem very probable, and also you can see that things like this are very common, where you have a little bit of a consolidation, price creates a mini double bottom, scoops back up, taps into the area, and then drops, right? It's happened countless times throughout this whole session. So something to just bear in mind. Abundance of trades there. I'm not going to drag this video on too long, but I hope there was some value in that as well. But this is essentially what you can be doing just to kind of do your pattern separation, and it's a little bit more fun in that sense because you're going along with price and doing it. I think with doing what I did here, it's a little bit more difficult because I used to do a lot of back testing about 2 years ago, and the problem with it is you don't always see the results you want to see, so it's very difficult to get into a lot of winning trades. And if you're journaling it, it takes a long time, so sometimes it's nice to just come to the chart, do something like this where you can practice your ability a little bit. You can just see what's happened in price as well. You can do a bit of back testing if you want to, but I don't recommend it's the best to do. And yeah, essentially, you know, there's trades everywhere. Like, you know, as we established, I think we probably made over 10% for sure over the course. I mean, and then at the end of it, you come back and you look at it, and it looks pretty decent, to be fair. You know, you've collected all this data now, and you've just, over a short period of time, we just went through all of this and we found a lot. And then the great thing about it is you can, in a different unit of time, you might find yourself reanalyzing your data again and discovering new things with your developed edge, with your new confluences. But just wanted to kind of just do that day pattern separation episode here. It's not the most exciting one, I know, but it's also it's just a demonstration of, you know, how interesting it can be, and then basically talking your way through it is a very, very nice thing to have. So guys, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.